Hello and welcome. Finally, we are back to an episode of Deal Hunter. Tom and I what have we been doing the last 4 months since we haven't been doing this? Because we've been doing other things.
Oh, yeah. I just got back from a meeting today of launching our nonprofit in Pakistan. So I've been head down on that. Capital raising with our guest today. We will be talking on his topic and building lots for builders.
So we are finally deciding to take this serious. We have a post-production team that's going to put everything together and hopefully make it a little better for our listeners or viewers, however you want to put it. We have this studio today. We hope to have step up our production even from where we're at today.
The Grand Palace will be here in a week.
I'm ready to have an in-house studio. I'm excited because we're going to bring on guests each week, and then we're going to break a little bit about what they said down and give our own thoughts on kind of how the conversation went, where we think that specific industry is going. And we're really going to try and cover pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think anything is off limits.
As long as, if it's a growing trend in real estate or investing or capital markets, we'll have a wide array of guests on. And our guest today is one of those.
Yeah, we're excited to have Jefre Outlaw joining us, who is the CEO and founder of HausFli. He is going to be our in-house expert on smart, sustainable, simple, attainable housing. Did I get that right, Jefre?
You did.
I got all four.
You did.
Well, it's great to have you on. We're excited to learn more about the space. Obviously, it's a big, big topic. When people talk about affordability, the only way we can really get to affordability in the first place is number one, density, and then cost to build, right?
Right.
Well, Jeff, do we go by Jeff or Jefre?
Jefre would be great. Thanks.
Okay. We'll go with that.
All right.
Well, Jefre, talk to us a little bit about the space. How did you first enter into the space? What really made you say this is a issue or challenge I want to tackle?
Yeah. What happened for me? A life change happened, and a health crisis kind of caused me to downsize from a big house down to 300 square feet. And wow, there were so many more benefits than there was detraction, right? It was like really 20 things I named, 19 of them were way better to live in 300 square feet, right? Incredible cost savings, was cautious about what I bought and had, and everything I had in my home I used, right? And if I didn't touch it in a year, I got rid of it. So I kind of went to this tiny home minimalist space because it's what fit my lifestyle as I was coming out of a health challenge. And I was like, wow, there's got to be something here, right? There's got to be, something about this. So I kind of jumped into the tiny home space, and for 5-6 years tried to make a business out of tiny homes on wheels, right? But the challenge with these tiny homes on wheels was that they are RVs. They're recreational vehicles. They depreciate the minute you buy them, and land use code and building code doesn't let you park them very many places, right? You can't put them, and you can't live in them full time really unless you're in an RV park. So it became like, wow, I can't really scale this and make a difference in simple, smart, sustainable, and attainable housing.
I love to hear that, and I can back you up. Last year, we went to Montana, rented an RV, and one of the nights we didn't have an RV park. Guess where we slept? In a Walmart parking lot. That was a weird night for me. I I preferred being in a state park along the Gallatin River, but we struck out. And you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, there's not many places.
Right. Yeah, you can park it in a Walmart parking lot, but they don't even want you to stay very long, right?
Yeah, I think there's a growing trend actually in RV camping in Walmart. It's not a popular choice, but it's more of a last resort because I mean we're building the biggest RV park in Texas, and we're doing so because we hear the stats of 2-month backlogs everywhere, right? So there's definitely a demand for the consolidation of square footage, for the mobility. Jeffrey, on that, in terms of the trends, I mean, obviously this is a hot topic across a lot of people that I talk to, and affordability and workforce housing. What are some of the trends that are hot topics for you and your partners?
Well, so just to be clear, tiny homes, which are generally defined as under 400 square feet and on a frame in an RV, is less than 1% of the market, right? So when I look at what's happening in modular, almost every home builder out there is looking for ways to cut costs and to increase speed of delivery of product and to minimize use of labor. And I want to be cautious here because I think the terminology is not fair. They talk about unskilled labor because they're not licensed electricians or HVAC. They don't have a professional license. But, these modules can be assembled by someone who understands how to put something together, right? But it doesn't have to be a licensed trade. So I don't call them unskilled because they have to have a level of skill, right? So, this whole idea that's been running around the industry for at least 5 years that I can remember of how can we build a house like a car, right? Using similar materials and production methods and make a car for a lot less expensive. We're not there. We're clearly not there. But every year it seems like we make incremental gains, right, on bringing the cost down. From what I see, my background is in finance, banking, and I watch the numbers very closely. And most of the solutions out there are 20% more expensive than site built, right? Which is a tough sell to builders today.
Yeah, I mean, in our glamping resort in Arizona, we just bought one from Drop Structures, as Jeffrey knows. I think that's 800 square feet, give or take. It's site delivered, set stitched, all that. It was 220, which is expensive. It's nice, but it's still quite expensive.
Here's the other thing too, that I think as modular starts to take off, there's 3 things when you're building that you can have. You can't have all 3, right? It's speed, it's quality, and it's cost. You can pick 2. At any point, right? If you want speed and quality, well, guess what? You're going to pay more, right? If you want low cost, well, you're going to have to sacrifice quality, right? So you can never really grab all of those. However, in the modular space,
changing,
you can actually have all 3. You can have the speed, you can have the quality control. To me, that's the most impressive with modular homes, because all your trades are right there. You can evaluate it, and it's a lot less babysitting. You're working with the same trades who are going out and doing whatever particular finish out that they're doing.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, I'm curious. You're very close to all the factories that are producing these. On a given year, let's say they had full demand, what could that capacity output in terms of product?
Well, let's talk about that. So, the challenge is that transportation cost, right? FOB factory versus FOB the site, right? Because you make it, you ship it, you set it, you stitch it, and then the final crew connects utilities, and then you go for a CO, right? So here's the challenge. Mitch, you're absolutely right in that you can have all three, but here's the challenge. We don't have all the regional factories that we need producing product to meet demand because, if you have, let's say you built a factory in, we can make it up, East Austin somewhere, or Hutto or Elgin or Taylor or whatever, and you could ship to Dallas, but, or Houston or El Paso. But once you leave the state, your transportation costs are going to start eating into your margin, right? Maybe you go to Oklahoma City, maybe Monroe, Louisiana, right? But you kind of reach a point of no return on the transport, right? And Tom, typically these lines, like a new factory that came online here in Central Texas, has two lines, and they're designed to produce one house a day, right? So that's per shift. So if you were full production, you would do 3 houses a day times 2 lines, so 6 houses a day, right?
Wow. So for comparison, in our communities, builders, the best of the best, who are doing volume production, right? So your typical ranch, 2-car garage, 1,400 square feet, minimal masonry work, whatever. They're producing 100, 120 per site per year, and that's fast, right? So this is 3 times that. So you think about the ability to deliver supply to the much needed market at an equal, potentially at some point, an equal or lower than cost. I mean, that's a viable solution.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear. What do you think, other than, transportation, what do you think the biggest challenges right now in the modular home space, other than the obvious, which is supply side? Because the demand is there.
Yeah, I think what slows down a lot of these factories and coming online is the certification process. So with modular, a lot of folks don't understand that in modular, you have to be certified in each state that you're either manufacturing product in or you're delivering product in. So, for example, these 3 Texas factories that I've worked with in the past hired the third-party certification agency, which is NTAICC, that's International Construction Code Authority, and they go through the process to get you approved through Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, TDLR. Well, that process for a new factory would take 18 months and might consume $100,000 to $200,000, right? So it takes time and capital to bring these online. I think this is why we're seeing these factories come online for built to rent, because built to rent is a perfect buyer for a modular factory, right? You have 4 floor plans. You've got 2 or 3 elevations each. You've got 4 interior packages, right? You just mix and match so your streetscape doesn't look too cookie cutter, right? And it's a 1,200 square foot plus or minus 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit, right? You don't go through R&D every time. That's the challenge when you come to a custom builder or a semi-custom builder. You're like, oh my gosh, right? It's why somebody like Z Modular, who's national, got out of the even the multifamily market, because every customer wanted a new box, right? The way they wanted to do it. So they said, look, they fired all their customers 2 years ago and said, we're so rich, we'll just go buy land and be a merchant builder. We'll just go build it, stabilize it, sell it. We'll keep stuff in our portfolio that's stellar, and we're done, right?
Yeah, be vertically integrated.
Yeah, I mean, on this note, Jeffrey, I don't know if it's public yet. I think the Icon one is, right. Didn't who was a national builder that just partnered with Icon, who's a modular home? producer.
Well, Lennar partnered with Icon 3D to do those 100 homes in Georgetown, Texas. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, there's that one, and then I think DR Horton is in the weeds with someone right now. Rumor has it.
It makes complete sense, especially
Right.
the build to rent. I think you hit it on the head. And what better way for these build to rent funds that are going to go out and structure these products and then probably do some sort of a roll up. They're going to sell them to some of the bigger investment funds out there. Yeah, I can control the entire supply chain.
Yeah. And so let me ask a question, which anyone who's listening is going to be asking themselves, what about quality, right? For a long time, the taboo of modular, if you would call it mobile, whatever it was, not up to snuff. Now, I've seen a huge improvement. And so, Jeffrey, in your honest opinion, the idea of quality, are these up to par? And without being too scientific, because I know there's a lot of science behind this, what, if not, is the difference between these and your stick built homes?
Well, so let's talk about that because it's really important. And I won't dive it because there's a whole lot of detail in there, but let's just stick with the high level stuff, right? When you tell someone that it's a manufactured home, right? You just go to someone who's not in the industry and you tell them, "Look, we're gonna bring you a manufactured home." Well, that's a perception that we struggle with in the industry, right? Because their thought immediately goes to a HUD certified home that is built by a mobile home manufacturer. It's on a steel frame with axles, right? And it's glue and staples and formaldehyde. No offense to that industry, right? It's had its purpose, but indoor air quality, length of service. I mean, if those things are used hard, they go in a dumpster 10 years later. It just that's the challenge. Now, are they producing that quality now? No, it's a much better quality. Champion has a Genesis line. I was just in one at IBS International Builders Show in Vegas. It's stunning. It's beautiful. I'm like, wow, I'd live in this, right? Uh, they're changing for the market. But when we say modular, but those homes that were there at IBS, they're done by Genesis, which is the Highline Champion product. That's still a HUD certified home. So you only have 3 lenders, right, that'll lend on it, right? It's chattel, it depreciates. When we talk about modular, this is considered same as stick built. So let's talk about that. You have 3 types of modular. You've got panelized modular. You make components that are certified, take them to site and assemble them. Volumetric modular, you build it in a factory, you take the box to site, set the boxes, set and stitch them, and you got a house. You can build anything from 500 square feet to 5,000 and up, right? It doesn't matter. So here's where the rub comes in. Some factories are saying, look, I'll just take the sticks and bricks model, the site built model we have today, and stick it in a factory, right? I'm using the same materials, nothing new. It's good enough, and get it out to site. Well, it's more square, the insulation's better, you've got much better fit and finish. It's just much better made because they're using jigs, they're using lasers, they're using CNC machines. It's a controlled environment, right? It doesn't get rained on, indoor air quality's better, you don't have the mold and contamination. You don't have the McDonald's bag that's in the wall because the guy that was framing it stuck it in there. You laugh, right? But we've all seen it because we've been in the industry that long, right? So I would say the quality is much higher. But just one other note on this topic. So what's most exciting to me is the new materials and the material science and the technology that's being used in these units. I believe in many ways panelized is going to win out because Department of Transportation says you can only build something so big and haul it down the road. I believe that people like, and it's not a plug, but Veev.com, Beev.com, who is building panels. There's many panel manufacturers out there, with foam and thermosteel and rock on, and I mean, just some amazing product. What these people are doing is they're saying, it's great, but that doesn't really solve anything. They're putting the certified MEP in the wall. The HVACs are mini splits that are built into the wall cavity, self-contained units. They just bring the panels to the site and erect them, and it's done.
Is there a growing amount of trades that I can actually put that together?
You don't need a licensed trade to do it.
Yeah.
You don't need a licensed electrician, licensed HVAC guy to do it.
Yeah, and I think and from a builder standpoint, you might still have your usual takedown schedules. Maybe it is still 120 homes per year, but now you have 1/3 of the amount of trades, which is, we all know, a massive issue with why it takes 8 to 9 months to build a home.
Sure.
So I mean, just from that standpoint alone, controlling risk. Not to make a fast pivot, but do we talk about capital? And
I am curious, because we were going down that road. I'm curious to see what type of capital is being deployed into this space. So we're here in Austin. We're in Central Texas. I know of a few folks out east. One shipping container company, and they ship all over. It is a free plug to Bob's Containers. So worked with Bob over at Techstars as a mentor, and certainly a very interesting, unique product. Small, right? You're under 400 square foot on one of those shipping containers, but they've got some interesting concepts, really fully custom for the most part. I mean, you can do whatever you want. And then I know Brody Builders, they're out here. But I'm curious to know, Jeffrey, what are you seeing from a capital perspective into the space?
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Katerra, right? That was the huge meltdown that happened, right? So Katerra was a, self-described, modular home manufacturer, multifamily, single family, supposedly. I'm trying to remember if it was $1 billion or $2 billion they took from SoftBank.
Saw that default.
Yeah, and it defaulted, right? And it was a classic, give us enough money and we'll figure it out. And that just doesn't work. I think we all know that doesn't work, right? There's something to be said for scarcity to say, hey, look, I'm going to figure this out within reason and reality, and it didn't happen. So that shocked and scared the market, and so capital raising, in my judgment, from what I saw, I wasn't involved directly in any, really slowed down with those that I talked to, right? In the space about, well, we want to be a little cautious here. Like I said, I think there's some bright engineering and technical minds that are figuring this stuff out. I think putting the MEP in the walls is brilliant because you've just eliminated all these trades, and they're delivering that high-end product for $140 a square foot. That's with a slab, right? And the walls are Corian, right? They're not sheetrock.
And how fast are they delivering the product?
Well, here's the thing. That company's got 600 million, and they're scaling factories, right? And so they're doing the crawl, walk, run model, and I think they're going to be one of the winners. People ask me, like, have you heard of this company? And again, a week doesn't go by that there's not a new rendering, a new catchy a company name out from a foreign company, European, out of Argentina, US, out of California, and it's just really hard to figure out what's real or not. So let's talk about one. I refuse to get involved in rumors, but I can tell you this for a fact. So at the IBS, International Builder Show in Vegas a few weeks ago, Boxable was there, right? So Elon Musk made them kind of famous because they told me, and one of their executives was there and told me that he got one of their 3 prototype units, right? So 3, he got one. And it blew up on them, right? So they took orders and they're sitting on 160,000 orders.
Yep.
Okay.
You being one of them right here for 3 years
Right.
now.
Right. And so they've made a couple of hundred houses. They're sitting in a parking lot outside of the quote unquote factory, because when they took all those orders, they had no factory. That's a fact. And I asked the executive that was there, to be unnamed, I said, he goes, "Do you have any questions?" And I watched them spend a week putting this thing together. I'm like, what happened in the marketing of pressing a button and it goes together? Because I was at the show early. So I said, "Are you certified legal to install? How many states are you certified legal to install in?" And he took a breath and said, "Well, Jeffrey, right now we're not certified in any of the 50 states." I said, "Okay. So that's my test. Have you built one? Right? Have you delivered one? Is somebody living in it? Is it certified legal? And do you have enough capital to scale to EBITDA positive?" Right? That's the 6 questions.
Yeah.
There's probably
How long do you think that J curve is for an operation like this? Because an investment in a factory, that's in a massive CapEx. Massive. I mean, I don't know what the break even looks like for that, but yeah.
Well, and you say that, and I agree with you. And so I've seen stick built back modular factories put together for as little as 3 million, right? Which is cheap, right? That's just bare bones bootstrapped. A franchise that I ran across for modular, they require 50 million, right, for a regional factory.
That
right?
sounds about. I would be thinking $100+ million for a full scale operation. That's not maybe the regionals are a small. I guess it depends on what your scalability looks like there.
Yeah, and let's see here too. So, and again, most builders, give or take, who you talk to, their target IRR on their money is 20%. So let's just say that your average margin is, for easy math, 20%. And I guess, Jeffrey, the average price point of these homes are probably 150 to 250, give or take.
Right, well, it depends on square. I think you got to just on price per square foot. It's $140 is what he said.
Well, here's the point, Tom, is there's the low end where you can hit affordable housing, right? But most of this product we're seeing, 80% of it is going to fit the move up in luxury market because it is more expensive, right? So you've got to get a higher. Now, I've seen, my education's in finance, but I got a minor in real estate appraisal, and I've seen sales prices 17% higher on these panelized modular products shown to me. I didn't do it or sell it, but I've seen it, the proof on it. And I'm like, that's interesting because it's built better. It's much more energy efficient. It's practically net zero. I can see why that finish, quality level, cost of home ownership would generate a higher. I think 17% is on average. So I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive if they can sustain that, right?
I mean, but even, 20, 25, 30% margins, you're still at 1,000+ units for that's a huge lift. Right. I mean, 5-7 years, easy.
So, we're kind of talking about the broad scale industry, which is definitely very interesting to me. And Jeffrey, you've opened up my eyes and certainly have educated myself today. I'm sure Tom and anybody who's listening. My question to you is, where are you seeing most of the demand? Because to me, every time I hear of modular, the first thing I go to is an ADU, right? Or some backyard office, mother-in-law suite. Those are the first things I think about. And somebody goes, well, I'll just, I'll have it for guests. I'll short-term rent it, whatever. Where are you seeing most of those typically, those modular homes actually being used?
So let's talk about that. So the reality is, if you were to take a broad brush look at the modular industry, the majority of the modular product, mostly component, is going into multifamily and hotel, right? If we just want to talk about the construction industry, because yes, it's more expensive, but it's faster. And if you can get those rent rolls done, right, and you get those units rented and you have a scale, right? And so because the structural is so good on these, right, they exceed all the standards, right? Vastly exceed all the standards of wind load, snow load, seismic load, fire resistance, all that stuff, right? And so I tell folks, yes, the granny flat thing is really ideal. Craning little houses over a house is just insane. I won't do it. You know, we have to wait until we get an affordable panelized product with MEP in it to where we can carry it down the side yard and dry it in a day and finish it out in a week and be gone, right? At a reasonable price point, right? Because those are small, they cost a lot. But here's what I would tell you. When I get consulting calls on modular today with most of the piecemeal products, here's the solution. And Tom, you alluded to it earlier. You sell to where there's a no labor, right? There's no labor. You build it and you ship it there, right? Like in Chandler, Arizona, right? It's wind zone or damp climate. So you need something that won't mold, won't blow over, right? So it can make a difference there because it's more expensive. Seismic load can work as well, right? Or it's a product that you need to be able to pick up and repurpose and move, right? At some later date, right? Because we build units on precast concrete slabs. That's another topic for another time. But you can do commercial products and move them around rural locations as demographics change, right?
Fascinating. That's hotel and multifamily.
Yeah, I would not think that at all. Jeffrey, if people are more have a further interest in learning more about this or potentially consulting with you on any of this, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website at www.housefli.com. That's HAUSFLI.com, or email me directly at outlaw@housefli.com. That's HAUSFLI.com.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'd love to have you back on. Really appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you, gentlemen.
Cheers. Tom, you know, one of the things when I hear Jeffrey talk is specifically the opportunity as an investor. And that to me is really appealing.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it depends on what space you're playing, right? I still think that there's an application for the backyard Airbnb, right? They still come delivered, and then you still have to set and stitch. But we looked at this again for our glamping resort up in Arizona, and we, to his earlier comment, we did pay $20,000 for delivery, which is kind of expensive. So I think it depends on what scale. We know there's a huge wave of investors going into Airbnbs. So I do think there's, for those looking who, for the smaller check writers who want to get involved in modular with also Airbnb, it does seem like it's worth looking into for sure.
You've done a couple of these projects.
Not modular. So we actually worked with Champion in our Arizona sites where they did bring the home delivery. We built the slab foundations. His group builds some slab foundations with the home. So it's literally the whole home is delivered with the foundation, which is wild.
That is interesting. How do you think, because my mind starts to race from an investment idea, and I love, the concept. Everyone says, yeah, we need affordable housing. Yeah. And they want to be an evangelical and talk about, all the things that it would benefit. No one has really executed this at all, in my opinion, from what I've seen on a national scale on a regional scale, forget about it. I guess you've got, some of these companies like Icon, they are doing it on a local community level and hasn't been scaled. I don't know if that model has been successful for them. I really just don't know what.
I don't think so. I mean, look at Icon and Lennar. I mean, they're trialing it with 100 homes, which for Lennar is small.
Yeah,
right?
that's tight. That's nothing.
Yeah, so this is 100% their POF or their proof of concept.
Totally.
Right. I just quote Plenty of Fish. My gosh. POC, proof of concept.
That's okay. POF. That's okay.
Anyways, so now if this works for Icon and Lennar, they are going to scale this thing up rapidly, right? Because I mean, it's obvious the efficiencies with no trades. I still think the taboo of quality is a big hurdle to come across.
At this point, I guess from access, I guess if you invested in Lennar, you're going to get some exposure to this space, investing publicly and just kind of understanding that space. I don't really know of any other national builders who are doing things like that. I'm sure they're more in the POC phase of the investment, which totally makes sense because they don't need the ramp up. Right. That J curve is going to be mitigated and they just have to deploy the capital. And they obviously have that entire market supply side now with the partnership. And I think already the market demand exists. I think they just need to make it cool. You and I had talked about this a few months back over a cigar and some wine. I might have eaten an edible, but I wanted to say, we were talking about the shipping container parks because you think about, to me, the first opportunity is let's get rid of the mobile home park because they're gross.
Well, and beyond that, most states and cities are no longer approving the permits for them. Right?
Well, good.
Like in California, they're all gone.
Jeffrey was talking about formaldehyde. I'm like, yeah, formaldehyde smells like shit.
Yeah.
And they are shit. They're absolute. This is a technical term for that building. It is a piece of crap.
I think pre-2010, yes, they've come a long way on their quality. It's obviously not stick build. I mean, they're certified by FHA in financing, so says something.
But that's just because they understand the space and they understand the asset.
I mean, here's in terms of traction in this segment, right? $50 million, as you said, for a plant, which is probably accurate. Well, who's going to invest that kind of money unless, again, the POC is there, which it really isn't yet. Or you have the experience like a Lennar to show proof in the pudding that, hey, we can scale and build 1,000 a year if we need to.
To me, if I'm a regional Brody builder or a Bob shipping container, something like that, I'm building a scalable business and then I'm going to sell that to Lennar or I'm going to sell it to a DR Horton and let them, they're going to mitigate that J curve, buy a proven product. They might overpay, but who cares? Because they don't have to go into the R&D and actually get a process. They can just sit and let the capitalistic markets and let the best rise to the top and just go after them. And if you're Icon, that sounds like a perfect deal. This to me is a perfect opportunity for a Lennar to say, you know what, this went well. I'm going to buy Icon.
This is a wonderful free market use case because there's so many opportunities to squeeze synergies here. I'm excited to see what happens in the next 3 to 5 years.
I'm very, very excited to see this entire space develop. Let me just finish this thought because the idea of these mobile home parks being replaced by these modular home parks, even a shipping container, to me, that just sounds pretty obvious. More safe, right? You've got a safety issue, especially those areas where you've got tornadoes and hurricanes and, those natural disasters, they rip those mobile home parks apart. These shipping containers certainly can withstand all of that, assuming that, it's bolted down correctly, which, I don't know what from a permitting perspective, what that even looks like, but it's pretty lax. It's pretty unregulated. I've got to think though, there's an immense opportunity for folks to go out there and maybe even transition some of these RV parks or, start to parcel off some of that land and say, you know what, let's start doing some of these modular home.
And I think it's already happening again, because for example, California, they won't approve any more permits, but they allow the ones that already exist. So how do you replace the, decrepit homes? Well, here's an opportunity. So, yeah.
All right. How do we, as investors, how does a retail investor actually do this right now? I mean, right now the main way I think most retail investors they're putting it in their backyards.
Yeah.
There are some folks we know who are doing some of these, glamping style communities that they're trying to short-term rental. Oh my God. Is that the most crowded trade on the planet? I'm going to buy this and I'm going to short-term rent it.
Yeah. I mean, I have a 5-star villa in Cabo that I can't rent because this is my first Airbnb, and I'm so down the list that it's so saturated.
It's the most saturated market. I really think that a big part of why we've had a run up in housing cost is because, well, free money, and people were taking home equity lines of credit and buying a second home and go, well, I'll Airbnb it.
Yeah.
It was literally the only thing I kept hearing.
Palm Springs, like the entire market's like Airbnb.
Well, a lot of that market is regulated, so there's only certain areas that you can get in.
Interesting.
But I went ahead and took MIT's commercial real estate course through Coursera. Great course, by the way, 6-7 week course. And while I was doing it, I was modeling out some of the AirDNA data, which takes and aggregates all the short-term rental data from Airbnb and VRBO and the various sources. And I went out and tried to identify the top markets out there for these short-term rentals. Joshua Tree and Palm Springs, Palm Desert, they were
Marfa.
They were up there.
Yep.
Marfa was a top 10. And so, but yeah, you've got regulatory issues there, but that one makes sense. But how I don't think there's really a viable solution for investors today. From what I know,
yes, there's probably a person doing a small syndication to do a 4 to 10 unit glamping or sort of boutique resort, and then you can be an LP. Otherwise, it's probably pretty hands-on.
Dude, this is a great discussion. I love how this format went. Jeffrey was an absolute virtuoso.
Full of knowledge.
I mean, I've not heard anybody talking that in depth on modular homes, and very thankful to have him here. Good discussion. We'll definitely keep, the brain train rolling. And it's good to be back on the podcast kick. We expect to be dropping a new episode
every week or two. Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah.
Then we say every week.
Right. Every week.
Yeah. So every week we'll be doing this. And as always, man, thanks for joining. Where can people find you?
Tom at redoakvc.com. Heavily focused here in Austin, Texas. So if you're interested about Austin, give us a ring.
I am at mflax at netequitycapital.com. We have a landing page website that we're going to launch for Deal Hunter podcast, where we'll upload certain things that we're talking about. So more to come. We've invested money and time into this. So excited to do more. Until next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.